ये प्रोग्राम सफल हो पाया, इसका श्रेय जाता है हमारी कक्षा 10 के बच्चों को। और मैं धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा हमारे महाराज को, हमारे विद्यापीठ के अथॉरिटी को, जिन्होंने अपने अथक प्रयास से हमें अनेक वाद्य यंत्र मुहैया कराया। इसके लिए महाराज को धन्यवाद। तो चलिए, मेरे मन में एक प्रश्न था, भारत क्या है? इसका सही उत्तर मिला जब मैंने पढ़ा हमारे परम श्रद्धेय श्री अटल जी को। उन्होंने लिखा है, भारत के बारे में उन्होंने लिखा है, यह चंदन की भूमि है, यह अभिनंदन की भूमि है। यह चंदन की भूमि है, यह अभिनंदन की भूमि है। यह तर्पण की भूमि है, यह अर्पण की भूमि है। यहाँ कंकड़ कंकड़ संकड़ है, यहाँ कंकड़ कंकड़ संकड़ है, यहाँ बिंदु बिंदु गंगा जल है। यह चंदन की भूमि है, यह अभिनंदन की भूमि है। तो चलिए आगे हम इस चंदन भूमि के कुछ सुने कुछ अनसुने पुराने यादों को दोहराते हैं। चलिए फिर हम इस भारत के स्वर्णिम इतिहास को के कुछ पन्नों को फिर से दोहराते हैं। तो स्वागत कीजिए हमारे अगले प्रोग्राम अ ब्रीफ हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडियन इंडिपेंडेंस का।
With destiny, and now that time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will wake up to life in freedom. These were the words of Jawaharlal Nehru on 15th of August 1947, the day India finally won its independence from the dirty hand of the British people. March 29, 1857, on the parade ground of Barrackpur, a sepoy whom we know by the name Mangal Pandey fired the first shot of uprising. His unit in Bengal army, which had refused to use the new rifle cartridges, was about to be disarmed and punished. Pandey rebelled by shooting a British sergeant major and a lieutenant. On April 8, 1857, he was hanged, and India lost one of her first freedom fighters. This led to a mass rebellion, which is known as Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. It is known to be the first war of India's independence. The year 1885 marked the founding of Indian National Congress by Alan Octavian Hume. INC generally gets a large share of credit for India's independence movement. Bengal was partitioned in the year 1905 in two parts, Western Bengal and Eastern Bengal, on the basis of religious grounds. Lord Curzon said it was done to solve the difficulties in managing the huge province effectively. But it was also a clear example of divide and rule policy. Eastern Bengal had Muslim majority, whereas Western Bengal had Hindu majority. After several protests, Eastern Bengal was again assimilated in the Bengal presidency. Mahatma Gandhi returned to India from South Africa in 1915. Along with him, he brought the ideas of non-violence and a novel method of mass agitation called Satyagraha. On April 30, 1919, the infamous Jallianwala Bagh massacre took place. It is one of the darkest days where hundreds of innocents lost their lives in the hands of tyrant General Dyer. Then came the Chauri Chaura case, where a peaceful demonstration in a bazaar in Gorakhpur turned into a violent clash with the police. Gandhiji halted the non-cooperation movement since he opposed violence. On 8 April 1929, Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Dutt threw bombs at the Legislative Assembly at Delhi. If the deaf are to hear, the sound has to be very loud, stated Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Dutt at the trial. These two young revolutionaries turned the deaf, imperialist British towards youth of evil that changed the course of India's freedom movement. With Dandi March, Gandhiji had broken the salt laws and started the civil disobedience movement. And parallel to this, an Indian was creating waves and became the biggest nightmare of the Britishers. His name was Subhash Chandra Bose. From Germany to Japan, he was penetrating their roots and making allies with them. Britishers lost their sleep due to the unpredictability of Bose. The Indian National Army was founded on 1st September 1942 in Southeast Asia during World War II by Rash Behari Bose. It was also known as Azad Hind Fauj. Soon the leadership was handed over to Subhash Chandra Bose. They fought under the Japanese Imperial Army. After the official death of Bose, the soldiers of INA were treated as prisoners of war and tortured. This triggered the Royal Indian Navy and led to the Royal Navy Mutiny in 1946. It was an insurrection of Indian naval ratings, soldiers, police personnel, and the civilians against the British government in India. From initial flashpoint in Bombay, the revolt has spread and found support throughout British India, from Karachi to Calcutta. It acted as the final nail in the coffin of British rule. In June 1947, it was announced that India will be partitioned into India and Pakistan on the basis of religious affiliations. Again, Britishers showed when they leave the country broken into pieces. Congress leaders too accepted the decision, and now we are bearing the fruits of the contentious decisions made by our past leaders. Both the countries are now in a perpetual situation of war and are covered in clouds of uncertainty. On August 15, 1947, India achieved independence from the British rule, signaled the beginning of the end of the largest empire in the history of the world. May we be independent not just politically and socio-economically. May we also free ourselves from the occasional darkness of social and religious prejudice and bigotry. May you also be independent mentally, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.